Sometimes, I wonder how people in Japan manage to finish so many important things, yet still have time to breathe. There's a quiet steadiness in the way they move through their day. No rush, no panic. And yet, everything gets done. Even their trains, like the famous Shinkansen, are so precise that in some years they run late by only 18 seconds. 18 seconds. It makes you stop for a moment and ask yourself, how is that even possible? And more than that, could we learn to live that way too? Because if we're honest, most of us feel busy all the time, but not in the meaningful way we want. We wake up, check our phones, reply to messages, handle small fires that don't matter, and suddenly the day has slipped through our fingers. We tell ourselves we worked hard, but deep down we know the important things, the things that truly move our life, kept being pushed to tomorrow. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Being full of motion, but lacking direction. And when you compare that to the calm, intentional rhythm of Japanese life, you can't help but feel there's something they understand about time that we don't. In this video, I want to walk with you through that understanding, gently, clearly, without rushing. I'll share 7 core Japanese principles, simple, human, quietly powerful, that help people in Japan protect their time and focus it on what truly matters. These aren't abstract ideas. They're practical habits and cultural philosophies you can use starting today, no matter where you live. By the end, you'll see that time isn't something we find. It's something we shape. And the Japanese have mastered that art in a beautifully minimal, meaningful way. Principle 1, Ikigai, finding what your time is truly for. There's a quiet question that sits beneath the surface of every busy day. Why am I doing all of this? Most of us don't stop long enough to answer it. We move from task to task, responsibility to responsibility, without ever asking whether any of it is connected to what truly matters to us. And that's where the Japanese idea of Ikigai begins. It's often translated as your reason for waking up in the morning, but it's more gentle than that. It's the feeling that your life has a direction, a center, a quiet anchor you return to when the world becomes loud. When you look at how Japanese people structure their time, Ikigai isn't a poetic thought floating in the background. It's a practical compass. It tells them what deserves their attention and what doesn't. It's the filter that allows them to say no without guilt, yes without hesitation, and choose their days with intention. And that's why, when you observe people in Japan, you rarely see the frantic, scattered energy many of us feel in our daily lives. Even when they're busy, there's a sense of purpose in the way they move. One of the clearest examples of this comes from the island of Okinawa, known for having some of the longest living people in the world. Researchers who studied the community found that the longevity wasn't just about diet or environment. It was deeply tied to Ikigai. Many of the elders there could tell you exactly what gave their life meaning. Some said it was tending their garden each morning. Others said it was cooking for their grandchildren or practicing a craft they'd done for decades. These weren't grand missions. They were simple, steady reasons to live. And because they had that clarity, their days were structured around it. They didn't waste energy on things that didn't matter to them. Their time naturally flowed toward what kept them alive inside. It makes you wonder, how much of our own stress comes from not knowing what truly matters? How much time do we spend on things that drain us, simply because we don't have a clear reason to say no? When you don't know what's important, everything feels important. And that's exhausting. So let's bring Ikigai back to a practical level. Think of Ikigai as a tool, not a philosophy. Something you can actually use to organize your time. You don't need to identify your life's ultimate purpose. You just need a small, clear direction, something that makes your day meaningful. It could be improving your health, building your creative work, nurturing your relationships, or mastering a skill. Once you identify that direction, the magic happens. Decisions become easier, priorities become obvious, and the noise of everyday life gets a little quieter. Imagine you're someone who values creativity. Maybe storytelling or photography or writing brings you alive. If that's part of your Ikigai, then spending 20 minutes a day developing that craft isn't a luxury. It's an anchor. It's a way of returning to yourself. And when a friend asks you to take on something that steals time from that anchor, you'll feel a natural clarity inside. Not a harsh no, a peaceful no. The kind Japanese culture is known for. Or imagine your Ikigai is connected to family. Maybe it's being present for your children or building a home filled with warmth. Suddenly, the urge to overwork or stay late at the office begins to feel misaligned. You notice it faster. You adjust sooner. Life starts to feel more intentional. And the beautiful thing is that Ikigai doesn't pressure you to become someone. It simply asks you to notice what makes you feel alive and give it space. Before we move to the next principle, take a quiet moment and ask yourself a simple question. What gives meaning to my day? Not your week, not your life, just your day. Write down one thing. That's your action step for today. One small clarity, one gentle starting point, because once you know what matters, your time finally has room to follow it. Principle 2, Ho-Ren-So, the communication habit that saves hours. There's a quiet kind of frustration we've all felt at work. You're waiting for someone to get back to you, an email, an update, a confirmation, and nothing comes. Hours pass. The task you wanted to finish gets stuck, your momentum fades, and suddenly what should have taken 30 minutes now drags across the whole afternoon. It's not the work that slows us down, it's the silence in between. Japan has a very different relationship with that silence. Instead of letting it grow and turn into delays, they use a simple communication principle called Ho-Ren-So. At first, it sounds like a philosophy, but it's actually a practical routine. 3 small habits that prevent confusion before it happens. 3 steps that make teamwork feel smoother, lighter, more human. And each step serves one purpose. Keep everyone connected so time isn't wasted in the gaps. The first step, report, is about sharing updates early, even when the update is small. It's a way of saying, I'm here, I'm on it, and this is where things stand. The second step, inform, is sharing information that might affect others before it becomes a surprise. And the third step, consult, is reaching out before making decisions that could impact the team. It's not hierarchy, it's harmony. It keeps people close enough that no one gets blindsided. If you've ever wondered why Japanese companies often run like well-tuned machines, part of the reason is Ho-Ren-So. It prevents the tiny misunderstandings that grow into major problems. There's a story about a manufacturing team in Japan that illustrates this beautifully. One morning, a junior employee noticed a machine making a faint clicking noise. He didn't think it was urgent, but he still reported it immediately, because that's what Ho-Ren-So encourages. Within minutes, the team gathered, inspected the machine, and found a loose part that could have caused hours, if not days, of downtime had it gone unnoticed. A small report prevented a large failure. A few words saved an entire workflow. And when you see it that way, you start realizing how much time we lose in everyday life simply because we don't communicate soon enough. Sometimes we hold back updates because we don't want to bother people. Sometimes we wait until we have all the answers. Sometimes we assume others already know. But silence is expensive, and clarity doesn't cost a thing. Imagine how different your day would feel if the people around you used these tiny habits. Imagine if your coworker let you know they were running late on a task before you had to chase them. Imagine if a team member shared a concern early enough for you to fix it calmly instead of in a panic. Imagine if decisions flowed through honest, simple conversations instead of long, stressful guesswork. The whole rhythm of work becomes softer, more predictable, less draining. And this isn't only for offices. You can use Ho-Ren-So in your personal life too. If you're running behind schedule, a quick message saves someone from waiting and wondering. If something unexpected happens, sharing it early reduces tension later. If you're unsure about a plan, asking for input before acting strengthens trust. Communication becomes less about reacting and more about aligning. So, here's a gentle action step for today. Pick one conversation, just one, that tends to slow you down. Maybe it's with a coworker, a partner, or a friend. And try the simplest form of Ho-Ren-So. Update early, share honestly, and ask before assuming. Just once. You'll notice how quickly the space around you becomes clearer, because when communication flows, time flows with it. Principle 3, Kaizen, the power of improving, just 1% a day. There's a quiet pressure many of us carry without noticing, the pressure to change everything at once. We tell ourselves that if we want to be healthier, or more organized, or more focused, then it has to be a complete overhaul. New routines, new habits, new life. And because that feels overwhelming, we end up doing nothing. We wait for the perfect moment to start, even though that moment never comes. In Japan, the relationship with change is gentler. They don't begin with perfection. They begin with 1%. That's the spirit of Kaizen, the belief that tiny improvements, repeated consistently, reshape your life more effectively than dramatic changes ever will. And when you look at how this idea is used in Japan, especially in time management, it becomes surprisingly practical. People often associate Kaizen with Toyota's production system. And yes, that's where the term gained worldwide attention. On the factory floor, workers were encouraged to make small suggestions each day to improve efficiency. Maybe a tool could be placed closer. Maybe a movement could be simplified. One tiny change might save only a few seconds. But across thousands of employees, thousands of motions, thousands of days, those seconds snowballed into hours, then months, then entire years of extra time. That's the compound effect in action. Small, positive changes adding up quietly, invisibly, until one day you look back and realize how far they've carried you. But Kaizen isn't just for manufacturing. It works beautifully in ordinary life. Imagine a kitchen where you move the mug you use every morning from a high shelf to the counter. A tiny change. Yet, across a year, that small adjustment saves minutes, and those minutes compound into hours. Or imagine reorganizing your workspace so your most used items are within reach. Suddenly, the constant micro-interruptions disappear. You sit down, you work, you stay in flow, 1%, one adjustment, one calmer day. And when you look at the science behind it, it becomes even clearer why Kaizen works. The compound effect in psychology and behavioral science shows that tiny repeated actions shape our long-term results far more dramatically than big, inconsistent efforts. That's why 5 minutes of daily stretching does more for your body than a single intense workout every few weeks. It's also why spending 10 minutes each evening preparing for tomorrow reduces hours of stress the next day. Our brains respond better to manageable steps than to grand transformations. But perhaps the most beautiful thing about Kaizen is the way it softens your relationship with progress. It removes the shame of not being perfect. It lets you move at a human pace. You don't have to become a new person. You only need to adjust one small thing today. Let's bring this closer to your life. Think about your workspace. Is there one small friction you deal with every day? Maybe your charger is always tangled. Maybe you constantly search for your notebook. Maybe your chair height is slightly off and you adjust it unconsciously every hour. Fixing one of those things takes less than a minute, but it changes the entire feel of your day. That's Kaizen. Or think about your routines. If your mornings feel rushed, adding a 2-minute pause to prepare your bag the night before might save you 10 minutes of chaos. Again, Kaizen. You can apply this principle to time management in an even more direct way. Ask yourself, what is one task I can make 1% faster? What is one unnecessary step I can remove? What is one tool I can place closer? When you answer gently, honestly, you'll start seeing dozens of small improvements waiting to be made, each one freeing a little pocket of time you didn't know you had. So, here's today's action step, simple and clear. Look around your environment, your desk, your kitchen, your morning routine, and choose one tiny improvement you can make in under 60 seconds. Do it now. Let it be small. Let it be easy. Because the truth behind Kaizen is this: the smallest step, repeated with intention, becomes the step that moves your whole life. Principle 4. Sasaki time blocking. Working with your energy, not against it. There's a moment in the day when your mind feels sharp and awake, and another moment when everything feels a little heavier, slower, harder to grasp. Most of us ignore those shifts. We push through our tasks in the order they show up on our calendar, as if our energy always stays the same. But it doesn't, and when we fight against our natural rhythm, we lose hours without realizing it. In Japan, there's a more intentional way of working, a quiet approach inspired by the Pomodoro technique, but shaped by something deeper: human energy. It's sometimes called Sasaki time blocking, a simple practice of dividing your day into focused blocks, not based on the clock, but based on your natural peaks of alertness. Instead of forcing your brain to follow the schedule, you let your schedule follow your brain. The structure is gentle. You work deeply for 25 to 50 minutes, then you rest for 5 to 10. But the real beauty isn't the timing, it's the placement. People in Japan often match their most important tasks with the moments they feel most alive. Early morning for strategic work, late morning for administrative tasks, afternoon for lighter tasks, evening for reflection. It sounds obvious, but most of us do the opposite. We put urgent tasks first, meaningful tasks second, and our best energy gets wasted on things that barely matter. Modern research supports this idea. Studies on deep work show that the brain can only maintain intense focus for limited periods before performance drops sharply. And research on something called attention residue reveals that every time we switch tasks, part of our attention stays stuck on the previous task, reducing our clarity for minutes at a time. These tiny fragments of lost focus add up. They are the quiet thieves of modern productivity. When you observe workplaces in Japan, you see how this awareness shapes their routines. A friend once told me about his office in Tokyo, where employees started their mornings with a silent half-hour block. No meetings, no conversations, no notifications, just focused work during the sharpest part of the day. Even the lighting was softer. This single block eliminated the need for rushed catch-up later and created a sense of calm that carried through the afternoon. They didn't work longer. They worked with rhythm, and it works just as well outside the office. Think about household tasks: cooking, cleaning, organizing. These things feel heavier when you do them at your lowest energy. But if you match them to the moments you naturally feel lighter, they unfold with ease. Or think about creative work. Trying to write when you're exhausted is like lifting a boulder with one hand, but writing when your energy peaks can make the same task feel effortless. The task doesn't change, your state does. This technique is less about time and more about awareness. It asks you to notice yourself, to see when your mind is bright and when it's cloudy, to treat those transitions with respect instead of resistance. Once you begin noticing your energy curve, your day starts to rearrange itself in a way that feels kinder. So how do you begin? You start small. For one day, pay attention to when you feel most focused. Is it early morning, late morning, evening? Just observe. Then choose one meaningful task and place it inside that natural peak. Work on it for 30 or 40 minutes. Put your phone away. Let yourself sink into the moment. And when the block ends, rest. A breath, a stretch, a short walk. Something simple. Here's your action step for today. Pick one task that truly matters to you and schedule it during your highest energy moment tomorrow. Just one. Let that moment become your anchor. Because when you work with your energy instead of against it, time expands in ways you never expected. Principle 5, Ma, the Japanese art of creating space in your day. There's something quietly beautiful about the way Japan treats empty space. In Western culture, we often rush to fill every moment, every corner, every silence. But in Japan, emptiness isn't seen as a problem. It's seen as a presence, a living part of the moment. They call it Ma, the gap, the pause, the breathing room between things. At first, it seems like a poetic idea, something abstract. But when you look closely, Ma is deeply practical. It shapes how people manage their time, their attention, and even their emotional energy. Ma isn't about adding more to life. It's about removing what doesn't belong. It's the space that allows the important things to be seen clearly. And when you apply it to time management, it becomes a powerful antidote to the chaos of modern living. Most of us pack our schedules to the edge, believing productivity comes from doing more. But the Japanese approach leans towards subtraction instead of addition. Not, how do I fit more into my day, but what can I gently let go of? When you look at Japanese calendars or work routines, something surprising appears. There are intentional gaps, moments of nothingness, a short break after a meeting, a quiet pause before starting a new task, a few minutes of silence before a team discussion. These small pockets of emptiness prevent the mind from collapsing under constant stimulation. They create a rhythm. Work, pause, work, pause. So the day flows instead of crashes. There's a story I once heard from a designer in Tokyo. He said his most creative ideas arrived not during the hours he tried to force them, but during the quiet walks between places, in the Ma. Those slow moments when he wasn't inputting anything new. No emails, no conversations, no noise, just space. And in that space, clarity rose to the surface. Think about your own life. How many times have you jumped from one meeting to another without catching your breath? How often have you said yes to events you didn't want to attend, tasks you didn't need to do, digital noise you didn't have the energy to handle? When your schedule is full, your mind becomes full. And when your mind becomes full, your ability to focus, create, and show up meaningfully begins to fade. Ma restores that capacity by giving you back the simplest resource of all: space. One of the most immediate ways the Japanese apply this is by removing unnecessary tasks. Not postponing them, removing them. If a meeting doesn't serve a clear purpose, it doesn't happen. If a task doesn't move a project forward, it's eliminated. If a digital distraction steals attention, it's silenced. This is the heart of Ma, choosing less so the right things can shine. And with every removal, time unfolds more gently. You can feel this same principle in Japanese homes. Minimalism isn't only about aesthetic beauty, it's a statement of intention. By reducing clutter, you reduce decision fatigue. By simplifying your environment, you simplify your mind. And once your mind is lighter, time feels wider. So how do you bring Ma into your own day? You start by noticing what feels heavy. A task you dread. A notification you always ignore. A weekly commitment that drains you. Instead of forcing yourself to push through, ask whether it truly deserves a place in your life. And if it doesn't, let it go. Create a gap, a soft space, a breath. Here's your action step for today. Look at your schedule for the next 24 hours and remove one thing. Just one. A task, a message, a meeting, an unnecessary obligation. Remove it gently, without guilt. That small act creates your first Ma. And inside that space, you'll feel something rare, room to be fully present again. Principle 6. Omotenashi. Respecting others' time to protect your own. There's a quiet elegance in the way Japan treats time, not just personal time, but the time of others. In many Western cultures, being a few minutes late is normal, forgivable, even expected. But in Japan, arriving late isn't seen as a small inconvenience. It's seen as a disruption to the harmony of the moment, a tiny fracture in the respect shared between people. And this respect has a name: Omotenashi, the spirit of thoughtful hospitality. At first glance, Omotenashi seems like a concept tied to service culture, the way a restaurant welcomes you, the way a shopkeeper treats you with gentle attentiveness. But beneath that surface lies something deeper. Omotenashi is the belief that taking care of others begins with taking care of their time. When you honor someone's schedule, you honor their life. You acknowledge that their minutes matter just as much as yours. And because this belief runs through Japanese culture, punctuality becomes more than a rule. It becomes a kindness. If you've ever been to Japan, you might have noticed that trains depart exactly when the clock hits the scheduled second. Not around the time, not close enough, perfectly on time. And people arrive at stations early, often waiting quietly in line. Meetings begin at the exact minute agreed upon. Even social gatherings have a gentle punctuality to them. It's not rigidity. It's consideration. A way of saying, I won't take what isn't mine, not even a moment. There's a story from a friend who lived in Kyoto that captures this beautifully. He once arrived 3 minutes late to a casual dinner with colleagues. Nothing formal, just a simple meal after work. Yet, when he arrived, he noticed a subtle shift. A pause in conversation, a soft smile of understanding, but also a quiet acknowledgement of the delay. Later, one colleague gently explained that arriving late changes the emotional rhythm of the group. People wait. They wonder. They rearrange their internal timing. Those small disruptions accumulate. So, in Japan, being on time is a way to protect everyone's atmosphere, not just the schedule. When you view time this way, something interesting happens. Respecting other people's time ends up saving your own. Because when everyone is punctual, plans become predictable. When plans are predictable, tasks flow smoothly. And when tasks flow smoothly, you spend less time fixing avoidable problems. Think about how much time we lose waiting for someone to show up, waiting for someone to call back, waiting for a meeting to start. Waiting becomes the silent tax on our daily lives. Omotenashi removes that tax by creating trust. If you show up on time, others will too. If you communicate delays early, others can adjust without stress. If you honor someone's schedule, they will honor yours. Time becomes shared, not stolen. Let's bring this to a personal level. Imagine starting a workday where every meeting begins when it's supposed to. Imagine planning your afternoon knowing exactly when the morning tasks will finish. Imagine social plans where no one is left waiting awkwardly, checking their phone, wondering if they've been forgotten. This gentle sense of reliability creates emotional ease, a softness you can feel in your shoulders, your breath, your pace. So, how do you practice Omotenashi in your daily life? You start small. You arrive a few minutes early, not out of fear, but out of respect. You send a quick message if you're running late, not to apologize dramatically, but to prevent someone else from wasting their time. You end meetings when you said you would. You show others that their minutes matter. Here's your action step for today. Choose one interaction, just one, and treat the other person's time as carefully as your own. Arrive early, message ahead. Wrap up when you promised. Notice how it changes the tone of the moment, because when you honor someone else's time, you honor who they are, and in return, life begins to honor your time back. Principle 7, Rituals, turning small habits into automatic moments of focus. There's something deeply calming about watching a Japanese tea ceremony. The slow movements, the quiet attention to detail, the way each gesture feels deliberate, almost sacred. At first glance, it seems like a performance, but in truth, it's a ritual, a gentle structure meant to guide the mind into presence. And once you understand that, you begin to notice how rituals shape everyday life in Japan. Students cleaning their classrooms at the end of the day, workers bowing before beginning their shifts, families starting meals with a quiet itadakimasu. These rituals aren't rules, they are anchors. In the West, we often rely on motivation to start a task. We wait for inspiration, for the right mood, for the mental push to get going. But motivation is unpredictable. Some days it's there, most days it isn't. Japanese culture instead leans on ritual, small actions that signal to the brain, it's time for this now. Once the signal is set, the mind follows naturally, almost effortlessly. It removes the emotional friction and replaces it with flow. Psychologists describe this as the cycle of cue, routine, reward. A cue triggers the brain. A routine follows. A reward reinforces the pattern. Rituals make the cue intentional and consistent. When you light a candle at your desk, when you clear your workspace, when you make a cup of tea before writing, these aren't chores. They're cues. They tell your brain exactly what's about to happen, so starting the task no longer requires willpower. I once spoke with a designer who lived in Osaka. Every morning before beginning work, he gently wiped his desk with a soft cloth. It took maybe 10 seconds, nothing dramatic, but he said those 10 seconds changed how he felt about the entire day. The moment he wiped the desk, his mind became still. The noise faded. His focus returned. It wasn't the cleaning that mattered, it was the ritual. The signal, the shift. Rituals also make it easier to end the day. Many Japanese workers follow a simple practice called osoji, a small cleanup ritual that marks the closure of work. It might be organizing papers, shutting down the computer mindfully, or writing a short reflection in a notebook. By ritualizing the ending, they create a clear boundary between work and rest. Without that boundary, the mind keeps spinning long after the day is over. Think about your own routines. Maybe you've had mornings that felt chaotic before they even began, or evenings where you couldn't stop thinking about unfinished tasks. A ritual can soften those edges. A ritual can tell your brain, gently and clearly, we're starting now, or we're done now. And once your brain believes it, your time becomes easier to manage because your mind stops resisting the transitions. Let's make this even more practical. Imagine you want to read every day. Instead of forcing yourself, create a small ritual around it. Sit in the same chair, turn on the same lamp, make the same cup of tea, do it in the same order. You'll feel your mind slipping into reading mode naturally. Or imagine you want to focus better. Before working, tidy your desk, take a slow breath, and place your phone out of sight. After a few days, your brain will connect that sequence with deep work. The cue becomes automatic. And the beauty of rituals is that they don't need to be elaborate. They just need to be consistent. Something small enough that you can do it even on your hardest days. Something gentle enough that it feels comforting, not demanding. So, here's your action step for today. Choose one part of your day, morning, work, exercise, winding down at night, and create a tiny ritual that lasts less than 1 minute. A pause, a breath, a gesture. Repeat it tomorrow and the day after. Let it become the quiet doorway your mind steps through as you begin something meaningful. Because when your habits become rituals, your time becomes art. When you look back at these 7 principles, you may notice something gentle tying them together. None of them ask you to rush. None of them demand perfection. They simply invite you to live with more intention. Ikigai, Ho-Ren-So, Kaizen, Sasaki, time blocking, Omotenashi, and the power of ritual. Each one offers a quiet way to shape your days instead of being swept away by them. Together, they remind us that time isn't something that just appears. It's something we create, moment by moment, choice by choice. And maybe that's the lesson beneath all of this. The Japanese don't have more time than we do. They simply use time differently, more gently, more consciously, more in rhythm with who they want to be. So, before you go, I want to leave you with a small invitation. Choose just one principle from today's video. Not all 7, just one. Try it for the next 24 hours. Let it be a tiny shift, a quiet experiment. Maybe you'll create a morning ritual. Maybe you'll remove one unnecessary task. Maybe you'll match your most important work with your highest energy moment. Whatever you choose, watch how your day subtly changes around it. And when you've tried it, come back and tell me in the comments which one you picked and what you noticed. Your experience might inspire someone else who's watching this with you. In the next video, we'll go even deeper. We'll explore something many people admire about Japan, but rarely understand. How the Japanese maintain discipline not just for a week, not just for a month, but for a lifetime, even when no one is watching. There's a surprising secret behind that, and I can't wait to share it with you. Until then, take one gentle step, one small choice, and let your time begin to unfold in a way that feels meaningful again.